Good evening. You are listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Raoul. I'm broadcasting to you from an undisclosed bunker location in Sonora, Mexico. Of course, I'm talking about the mobile unit, which is the Extreme Studios, just west of Orlando, Florida. I have here on the sat feed from the Great Midwest RDV. He may or may not be a special ops spook assignment kind of guy that may or may not be attached to this case, and he may or may not be working with the FBI because, as you know, you can't work across boundaries unless you have FBI. The CIA cannot. And that's a lesson that we learn, and it's pointed out to you in about the 10 words of dialogue in the film we're going to be covering for you tonight. A second watch for me, a first watch for you, RDV, and that would be Sicario with Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro, and of course Josh Brolin. And I will start off by saying this. This is an A-plus movie to me. It's fantastically acted. I only have one quibble with one thing at the end, but I think that quibble is an intentional thing. I don't think you can find a movie out there that does a better job of conveying a sense of dread when it comes to human trafficking, smuggling, coyotes, how disgusting the desert can look and all that too.
Yes.
And there's something about Emily Blunt's character we'll talk about more in depth because I know you might have a bit of a different opinion about it. Personally, this movie takes what it's going through very seriously, and it's very, very simple, and goddamn it, it's so effective too. What an incredible film to start off. Now, for you, it was a first watch, correct?
First watch. I've only seen the clip in the beginning where they're going across the border. They're in the car, trucks. They're at the border check, cross check,
Mm-hmm.
And then they talk about the rules of engagement and can we engage? No, only if they get out. If they get out of the car vehicle, then you can go out and then you can shoot them if you want to. But you can't make the first move. That's rules of engagement. I saw that clip and I was like, damn. But then I saw it's Taylor Sheridan.
I did too.
I had no idea.
His best writing credit to me.
I had no idea it was him. That's why I wanted to give it a shot. Guy, yep. I love Tulsa King. I love Landman. This is the opposite of that for Taylor Sheridan when it comes to those shows. This is a little bit more dark, a little more serious, gritty and serious.
No joking,
dude. Getting into this, watching it, I was like, okay, yeah, Benicio del Toro, who I think was the best Wolfman live action. I like Chaney, but Benicio del Toro, his portrayal was a lot better.
What do you think his opening gambit?
His opening gambit. Are you talking about the movie here?
Yeah.
It's
introducing her character, going on a raid.
Basically, we don't meet Benicio del Toro first. We meet Josh Brolin first.
And this is very smart. We'll come back to why later.
But explain who she is. She's the FBI agent. She's leader squad in a little house in Arizona where they have for the DEA. They're raiding a drug house, and after they kill the people in there, if she almost gets shot, she noticed that there's something in the wall. Then he knows there's like 20 bodies have been hidden were killed and hid inside the walls of the whole entire house. And then as they're going searching through the shed outside, one of the guys finds a little basement hatch, but then it gets blown up. So her and her partner basically are brought into the FBI quarters, where they meet the guy. What is his name? He's the actor from. He played
Josh Brolin.
Not Brolin. Before Josh Brolin.
Oh.
But he's in the room with them. The guy I'm talking about is Victor Garber, known as Jennings in this. He's their boss. That's where we're first introduced to him. For those who are like, I don't know who that is. Well, he was one half of Firestar. For those who watch CW Flash, he was Professor Martinstein. That's where he's most notably known for, other than Alias. I think that's the guy who heard the handler in Alias.
I did not know that.
I believe so. I remember looking it up before. Let me look quick. But anyway, he was an Alias. He's also Titanic, Annie, Legally Blonde, and all that other stuff. But so we're introduced to him. We're also into Josh Brolin, who's in there too, and they don't know why they're going there. They think they're being reprimanded, her and her partner, and we're privy to their conversation while they're waiting out. They keep going back and forth, and they're talking about, well, like, who do you want, for this, for this special team, He's like, well, the girl, she seems like she's done this like 5 times, she handled herself, in combat, stressful situations. And like, what about the guy? He's like, you served in Iraq. He's like, he's like, he's got a degree in law. He's like, no, I don't want a lawyer. Lawyers make problems. Lawyers ask questions, and we don't want questions answered. So we also, Emily Blunt's character looks down and she's looking in the glass thing. She looks and shows this guy, Josh Brolin's wearing flip-flops. and like, what the heck? So we're first being introduced him that he kind of looks like he might be a spook. But
yeah, it's a simple setup because the one thing it does is it really immediately conveys automatically right on the outskirts of a major metropolitan area there in Phoenix. You roll up into this neighborhood and you see. Well, look, in my mind, I want to sit there and say that SWAT teams, FBI, everybody acts like a professional and know what they're doing. I know that kind of skill level exists. A lot of the buffoonery we see on television, how it is today, you almost don't think they do, right?
The professional in this whole entire movie with the characters, it kind of felt like I was watching like the Bourne Identity back in the day, like when they acted, Hollywood actually took note of side characters. They weren't just like, well, no one's gonna care if I act out a character for what but the attention to detail in this, the guns, how they do things. So comes down to basically they want to recruit her because they need an FBI liaison in order to do what they want to do. And what they want to do is they want to hunt down the main drug cartel leader right now. And Josh Brolin basically openly admits, that you're either on a team to help us or you're not. You can sit this one out or quit your moral ground. Basically, because the whole thing is they want to stop the cartel from, becoming too big. They want to, knock it down a little bit. They said that the way this works is that the government's always work is that we control what the cartel does. If we don't, then there's chaos and all that stuff.
Yeah, we got to put them back in their place.
But we also got this mysterious Benicio del Toro, his character. We don't know Alejandro. We don't know what he is, and it's, the whole movie is her unraveling what the main plot is and can we trust this Alejandro guy? It leads to basically them going through an underground tunnel, which is a really cool fight scene here. They found out how they're moving the drugs. They're going underground through this little tunnel.
That's way at the end, though. Yeah.
No, it's like halfway through, pretty much. But the only thing that's really in the middle part is basically they find out the way that the cartels were then running this Diaz guy has been running his money is by taking out loans and then paying it back full interest with more. So he has a negative like $9,000 or $9 million bank account, and that's how they're laundering their money. So they put a freeze on that, and then they said the whole thing is they want to follow him to see where he goes because he wants to get this boss. And we learn more about Benicio del Toro, his involvement, who he is. We learn more that he's a lawyer. Towards the end, that his wife and daughter were brutally murdered. Yep. His wife was beheaded and his daughter was thrown into a vat of acid. So he wants the man who basically killed his daughter, killed his family. He wants revenge. And
so the way they set it up, though, I think is the most interesting part about this movie because you talked about it being kind of dark and maybe not liking that aspect of it.
She's the moral aspect,
She is us.
Yeah.
Stepping into a world of this unknown. And she's competent and she's not stupid. She's got a dark blue shirt on to start, right?
Yeah.
And so she wants to be part of it. And she's not being manipulated. She's like, yeah, I want to be on it. He's like, look, you're doing this, you're doing great, you're not making a dent. You got an opportunity to do it. Are you in? She's like, so yeah. And her partner, the lawyer, is basically, calls them to the side and is like, hey, let us know what's going on. And he does. So he's not fucking with her.
No.
He's being sincere. But you don't know his perspective. And that's the beautiful thing about this film is because it starts off seeing a guy over across in not Tijuana, but was it Juarez with his son and all that. We'll see that character at the end of the movie.
Yeah, cop. Yes, it was.
Yeah, a cop. So when they recruit her and then she goes, what they're going to do is to find this number one guy. He's got a brother. So they're going to go roust up the brother and kind of, shake the tree a little bit and see what falls out. And so this is the scene that you referenced earlier that got you interested in it because it's what we call the extraction scene. And I got to tell you, this is the kind of movie that if you want to see a very high resolution copy of it, it's even more impressive.
Yeah.
Because it's not overly done with music at all or anything.
No.
There's no yelling or screaming. It's a few people talking like professionals. And then you pretty much shut up and you watch it. And to your point that you said earlier with the supporting group, the guy that played the lead spy on Burn Notice, Jeffrey Donovan, is in here, and he's fantastic.
Yes,
and this whole scene, extraction scene, is like a master class to me because they're going across the border. They're working with the Mexican government to extract this guy.
Yep.
You
And
start seeing things like, him making comments like, hey, watch the police. They're not always the right guys. And so we see Benicio's character unravel. And what I thought was a sheer stroke of storytelling genius. And you and I don't get to this level of detail when we talk about Tulsa King, for example. It's a different kind of show. There's a scene where they're walking through and the speed of the cars are slowing down. They get the extraction and they're coming out. They're starting to get paced and chased through town a little bit, but it's slow. When they, one point when they're getting ready to leave, it slows down a lot, and she's getting terrified, like, oh my God, what did I fucking get myself into? Because you see a couple bodies hanging by their ankles upside down on the rail station, beheaded, and I think castrated. I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah,
and it's foreshadowing.
Columbia necktie, pretty much.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. Well, not Columbia, but whatever.
Yeah,
and Jeffrey Donovan's not being gross, but he's just talking to her. And it's like in that faraway voice, because he's the point man. He's on watch. He's like, it's really smart what they do with their bodies, because people don't know if they're innocent or not. They think that they may have had something to do with it. It keeps people in line. And when they get through extraction, of course, when it comes over to the border in the United States, this is how you do action, in my opinion. And you and I wanted to ask you about this, because I don't know if we are going to argue about this or not, but I like the fact that there's this tenseness. A car is broken down, and this is the United States-Mexico border, and they filmed a lot of it, not necessarily there at the border, but in a really authentic looking place. And these flyover shots are A+. They're the best I've ever seen in movies. They see a car pull up, and they're like, green Camry, 9 o'clock, this, that, 10 o'clock. We can't engage to what you mentioned. If he gets out, we get out. They get out, and then they shoot
4
them.
lanes. For people who don't know, as far as the border checking ages, you ever watch a movie, but they show you there's 4 lanes, and you got to wait in line, and you go through these checkpoints, and basically they're looking around, they're waiting for confirmation if they can engage, because they see a gun. They're like, can we engage? No. So they keep an eye on them. And then they see another car, and they're like, okay, what are we supposed to do? We got Benicio del Toro. She's in the back left seat of the truck, and then Benicio del Toro, like, he puts his gun out and he's looking, and they're making, and so basically one of the guys he opens his door, and they're like, and then they all got him at gunpoint. They got their guns. He's like, don't pull it. I don't want to have to kill you. And the guy decides, and then it's a whole gunfight. She stays inside the car. She's like, fuck this. I'm not getting involved, And then Federale, a Mexican cop who is on their payroll, the cartel, or maybe we don't know. Like, either he's on the payroll, he's a dirty cop, or he's on payroll, blackmailed. No, that's because that's what they do. The cartel, they're blackmails. They will kill your family, or you work for us.
There's bad cop.
Yeah, but there's also bad cops too. So either way, the Federale behind her shoots at the back window, and she basically turns around and she kills him. And then after they take out the bad guys, they get back inside the car, and then they call ahead. They're like, hey, I need a lane right away, an exit lane, and they drive through. And right then and there, she's like, what the heck? This isn't like you're going against procedure or protocol. We can't just murder people and stuff. So, and throughout the movie, she starts smoking again because she's so stressed out. Her friend even noticed it too. So his friend, after they're doing all this, decided, let's go to a bar. Let's wind down. This is after the whole bank scene. Because he told her, because Josh Brolin told her not to go in the bank. Well, she put herself on camera, so whoever, she made herself a target. She goes to the bank, or get on the bank. She goes into this little country bar with her friend, the FBI agent, and played by Danielle Kaluuya, and they meet John Bernthal character, Ted.
Well, I'd forgotten he was in here, honestly.
Yes, at the bar. And they all start hanging out. They're having fun, into drinks. She's going to hook up with John Bernthal, Punisher. Why not? Until she gets back, and they're making out, and then he has his keys there, and she notices the rubber band. The rubber band that the smugglers are using on their rolls of money.
Yep.
So she instantly knows that they basically fight, and he starts to choke her until Benicio del Toro comes in, and he's like, fucker. Get up. And they just basically they beat the shit out of him, and in the back of his car. And so it is just a crazy, the tension in this movie doesn't drop. It just it stays high, and then it gets a little higher, and it stays it keeps going. And she's she's in the area where she's like, we can't do this, and she starts having a moral relapse, a judgment stuff. She's like, we can't do this. And after, at the end, Benicio del Toro ends up getting the guy by shooting. Basically, if he follows after they freeze Carlos Diaz, I think his name is, his bank account, he drives into Mexico, and they're keeping track of him while he's running across the border. They smuggled his way in through the tunnel here, and the way they did it was really cool. They went in with their night vision goggles on, and they're going through tunnels, and they're supposed to go. She was supposed to follow this other guy, but instead she follows Benicio del Toro down the other tunnel, and we see this cop from before, the one that was taking his son to the soccer game stuff, the drugs there, and Benicio del Toro comes in and shoots the other armed goon there, and has him at gunpoint. And then she shows up and she pulls her gun on him, and what does he do? Benicio del Toro just turns around and shoots her in the chest 3 times, and knocks the wind out of her hair. And he says, like, don't ever fucking put a gun at me. And he takes the cop, and he ends up going, meeting up with Diaz, pulls him over, and he's got the cop, he's at the gunpoint from behind the scene, and I love how he gets out of this. Gets out, you're thinking oh my gosh, this cop, he's dirty, but it's you're kind of torn on this. I'm not 100%. I know, but they write it to make you kind of feel like he's torn because
I didn't feel that.
Kids. Well, that's just you. I'm just saying.
I think what they're showing is an ordinary guy in Mexico. A lot of them either are going to be unemployed, be shit poor, or you're going to do something on the side dirty for money. Yeah. There's zero fucks given to this guy.
Saw where he lived in. He lived in a little. He had a good wife, and he had a son and stuff. And then they lived in this little crappy little house. His son, they really focuses on him being with the family and taking his son to the soccer game and all that stuff.
Average dude.
So they try to really make you feel sympathized for this guy a little bit, but he's dirty, but he's not dirty. They don't show him ever
I know what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So he looks like the guy who may have been maybe for a little cash for the side, and maybe got wrapped up in and can't get out. Mm-hmm. One of those guys, and that's kind of what Ted was. But Ted was worse. Ted was trying to kill her, and so anyway, so he has the cop pull the guy over, and then and then the cop tells the cop get out, and then he shoots the cop back, killing him, leaving him in the road, and he shoots Diaz in the leg. They get back in the car and they drive to the compound, and the whole entire time he's got the helicopter telling him through the night vision above, he's go, you guys got here. And they roll up. And I love this how they grow up to the house though. Yeah. Because it kind of made me feel like back with what was it, Better Call Saul with Lalo? What they said the DEA agents, they're gonna take a. Oh, you never watched that? Oh man, it's so great. Kind of the same thing. They go into the compound and he's and the guys are like, hey Diaz, what's going on? He's slow down. He's and he's holding his throat. He's oh, and then you see they're like, what the heck? And then you see Benicio del Toro runs up behind him, just takes him out 1, 2, 3, I love the out of the box thinking here, because that's other stuff I've never really seen before. And some you've seen, but Taylor Sheridan has a way of keeping it fresh. And I love because he keeps the same kind of color scheme going through the whole movie. It's a darker, sandy or either it's nighttime, or it's always that tannish color, like you'd see you're in the desert and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's always that dirty hue, like you see on our around us right now. And the visualization of just the color packet they use, and then just the music is, like I said, it's not it's not Fortunate Son or that stuff. It's just cinematic music, like you got back in the day.
Very understated.
Yeah. And so it said the ending for this was it said for me was just kind of shocking as far as this. And I'm not talking about with the FBI agent. I'm talking about with the Benicio del Toro goes in there. This guy's having dinner with his 2 sons and his wife. And then
this is the main dude. This is the guy responsible for putting the hit out on Benicio's wife and kid.
Yeah. And it is just disturbing because like he comes out there, the maid first sees him, he's like, oh shit, like he's like, he goes up, he walks across like this little lawn here,
But
he's
you
in the
don't
dark,
see it.
you know, yeah, and he sits, he also he pulls his gun, he's like, no, keep eating. And he's like, it's like, do your children, your family, or do they speak English? No, then we'll speak English. And he's like, you know who I am? He's like, and just like, and this is the thing. I was like, I did not expect this from Benicio del Toro's character.
Oh yeah.
I did not expect this.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you did, but I'm saying I did not think this because I did not think he was going to do this. I knew the guy had a really great chance of dying, but he's like, yeah. He's like, tell your kids to keep eating. Like, yeah, so the kids keep eating, and the wife's crying and all this stuff, and she's like, and he ends up like, he's like, the UIM, like, it's like, you're nothing to me. It's like, and he's like, no. Then he turns out quick instantly without. If you blink, you'll miss it because he kills the two sons and the wife. Real quick, 3 shots.
You
and
don't
the guy's like, what
see it.
It is, yeah. As I said, he's
that's my point. You know what he does, but you don't actually see it. You see her laying there with her head in a pool of blood, and the kids.
Well, you see the blood splats on the kids,
right,
on the wall.
The point is you don't actually see that with this.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this movie. You think is extremely violent. It's really not.
No, but like I said, like killing kids, like he really crossed the line there. Go out. It tells you
not. You have to put the kids out.
No, I'm just saying, as far as moral judgment, I'm saying Benicio del Toro. It's that he's the guy he's like he's not a soldier, whatever. He's just someone that wants to get revenge, and they're allowing him revenge, and he works well with them, so after he does this, they go back, and she's like, well, and she's talking to Josh Brolin. He's like, no, he's like, you can't do all this shit back in the tunnel and stuff, because she's like, I'm gonna talk, I'll tell everybody. And he's like
you went down the wrong tunnel. She did.
Yeah, she did on her time.
Understandable.
You were supposed to go down that tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the fact that we see her at the end here. She's in this little crappy hotel or motel where she's been living at, and next thing you know, you see her smoking on the balcony, and then we hear Benicio del Toro's voice.
Yes.
She goes aside. And he's sitting down. He's like.
You should avoid patios for a while.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like, well, maybe it's because like her face, because the cartel and all that stuff, because she's freezing the money count, maybe that. But
because she's been made because she walked into the bank.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like that,
Yeah.
But like, I thought it was more the thing. I was like, anybody can just take you out if they want to, like a threat to her, in a sense. He basically has a thing there saying like, I need you to sign this, and it basically states that during the whole mission, they all felt they went by the books. They didn't go off track or nothing like that. And she's like, I won't sign it. And he's like, really? He's like, well, it's a shame, it's like you need to sign this, And he makes a comment about how you look like a little girl when you're scared and stuff. And he gets closer and he puts the gun up to her chin. He's like, if you don't sign it, it's suicide,
because it's her gun that he has in his hand, and he's got the glove on it.
Yep. It's like he's just ruthless, like I said, this is such a dark movie, and I'm thinking, okay, is she gonna like get the upper side? Is she gonna kill him like somehow?
No.
But no, she's just the patsy. She signs it, cries, and then that's it. That's like I was like, oh, he walks away, and then she goes to the balcony, and she puts her gun again, and she's got the gun aimed at him, and he turns around, and he's like, really, you think you're gonna shoot this? And then he just and then she puts the gun down after a long stare, breathing stuff, panic attack, and then he walks away, and like that's the end of the movie. I said, like, it's such a gritty, dark movie. Josh Brolin's character is disturbing because like he doesn't care about waterboarding or that stuff. He's just so calm, cool, collected. And he's wearing flip flops, which is even more irritating. It means like this guy is a cakewalk for him, And we get a hint about his character from her friend Reggie, who's the other FBI agent. He says like, hey, careful about this guy though. the guy Matt. I've seen guys like him in the Army. They're not right in the head.
Well, I'll slightly disagree in this sense. I think the Brolin character is completely on point. He's not crazy or maniacal. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's knowing exactly how to get it. He knows exactly how much to say to let people know. That is completely smart and competent. I was really impressed by it because it was something where, again, if you go back to the beginning, I like the point you said earlier in the stream where we don't get introduced to Benicio's character till later. And then I wanted to throw in the idea here that we only meet him in phases where he had made the comment about the people hanging and all that too, and watching out for bad cops, and she ended up having to shoot one. And then, of course, she had to shoot him later, or try to. But then he had made the comment, like, to her, he's like, when he kind of saved her from getting killed there by Bernthal's character, he was very sincere about her. He made a comment, he goes, she reminded me of somebody that was very special to me. And then later on, he mentioned like it was his daughter. He doesn't really tell her what happened. But then the next day when they're having the debriefing or what like that, he's like, you good? All right, good. Your neck's good? Okay. So we don't really see him talk too much. And again, not seeing the violence. The first dude, the brother that they extracted, they took him to a spook facility. They tortured his ass. They waterboarded him. He's carrying a huge gallon or a big jug of water in there.
He talks to the lawyer. So
exactly.
he talks to the other guy, lawyer. He's like, hey, I know I recognize you. He's like, yeah. He's like, he's the lawyer. He's like, and that's the guy who tells him about the tunnel behind the car and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he's because he was getting some water. To get the Dixie cup out of the water machine, sponsor, and the bubbler. And so the next thing you know, he's like, after he's done talking to the guy, he's like, yeah, it's like, whatever. It's like, I'll see you later, and thanks for the tip, And then he grabs like the what is it, the Culligan man? It grabs the jug here, and then the water, and just like.
Well, the shot too is that you hear the guy screaming. It's just the water drain. No water's going into it, but it's just the way the way it's shot is everything is a very, very slow zoom in.
Yes, and then they show the floor drain in the room too, so it's like that's where all the blood goes. It's like. So you don't actually see the torture, but to imply what they're gonna do, and then you hear the screams. Even the guy you talked about, Jeffrey Donovan. I love his character in this. He's kind of like the pilot, or like the guy driver and all that stuff. He's in this. He's the guy gets everything else done, tactician, and he's like, well, I'm not gonna sit out through this. So I'm gonna leave. He leaves, and it's just basically it's Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin in there in the room. And you hear the guy screaming. It's just like, yeah, but like even at the end of this, after like the whole gunshot fight scene at the end with the shootout. Well, I should say because they go to Juarez. That's what they go to. Juarez is like this horrible. It's always been like since the 1800s, even before that.
It's always been. It's been
crazy.
Confirmed that to me.
Yes. So. Like I said, the very beginning, I love that extraction when they were actually going to get the guy. They see the bodies, and they got the 3 or 6 SUVs, black tinted window black SUVs. They got the police escorts in front of them, and they're going through. And then you see the people looking like, "What the heck's going on?" They're driving, and they're like, all of a sudden they hear gunshots. Okay, well, that's another. We don't want to get involved in that. That's a different dispute. Let's drive around that. And I was just like, man. And they get them out there, and like I said, like it's the whole thing. Like they even tell you, like you can't trust. Okay, careful about the Federelli. Some of them are paid off. You can't trust them. They'll flip on you a dime, and that's what happens when she's on the checkout point. So like a lot of little things that set up other scenes. Nothing's wasted.
No, and it's a 2-hour film, but the comment you made earlier about once you start the movie, it's pretty tense. It really doesn't let up, and it's not gratuitous, it's not over the top. It's actually, like I said, very understated. The violence, the hint of what's out there, but there's just something about watching this film that's just such a visual experience. It's tremendous, and you really feel like when they have these overhead drone shots when they're getting ready to talk about, like, say, going to Juarez, and then they have the drone shots with the guy talking about what they're doing, what the game plan is. You're half listening to it, but you understand, okay, they're going to go in, they're going to get this, and they're going to come out. But holy crap, what is it like to sit there and see during the extraction, not just overhead shots of the city, but watching the American border wall there as you see it dividing up 2 things, and then you see as they're driving. I don't know of a better way you can shoot something like that. The lack of CGI that I can tell in here. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, just the way it looks, it's just creepy and terrifying, and it makes you go, "Ooh, I don't want to be in that city. It's disgusting."
Yeah, I was like, so the second movie they did it was 2018, and this was like 3 years before that. So he's about 48 when they did this movie Benicio del Toro. So and Benicio del Toro, he's always had that look. You know, he always has that kind of gangster look, you know, that James Dean kind of like, I'm going to kill you, you know.
It's the squinting in the eyes.
Squinting in the eyes. Well, it's the puffing around his eyes, too, and all that stuff.
Yep.
You know, he has, just has that look. And you'll see him in The Wolfman. You'll see him in the Usual Suspects. I guess first start off was in
I really like The Hunted.
Yeah, the James Bond movie, too.
Mm-hmm.
I can't forget the name of the movie.
License to Kill.
License to Kill. He's the henchman in there.
Sanchez.
Yeah, but like especially in this though, he really just comes off. He's like calm, quiet.
He doesn't talk.
He comes off like he's just like he's. There's no soul left. He's just cold.
Let's talk about the ending that I think pissed me off when I first saw it. I appreciate it a little bit more now. It didn't piss me off as much as I think it pissed you off, because Emily Blunt's character, I mentioned at the beginning, she's got a blue shirt on. Nice dark blue.
Mm-hmm.
It gets paler as it goes on. It's mentioned that she's divorced, no kids or whatever. She's not a drama queen, but she's just overwhelmed by the vastness of what's going on here. And there's no big speeches or anything in here at all, like you might get in some other movies about kidnapping and cartels and coyotes and all this. No, it's not. She's caught up in something that she just ended up being in, and she doesn't know how to deal with it. So at the end, she's basically, to me, like breaking down. But she makes the stupid comment of like, well, I'll tell everybody, I'll talk. And he's like, no one's going to listen to you. And Josh Brolin basically intimates to her, he says, that would be a very unwise decision. Doesn't say nothing else to her.
No.
And she's just going to fucking do it. So it's like, why? Why would you do that, FBI agent? You've done nothing wrong here.
Because at that point, she was breaking down.
Yeah.
She wasn't thinking correctly. She just, that was her trying to hold on to her own, soul, her morality. Because she's been, at this point, she becomes so numb to it, and she's like, she couldn't take it anymore. She's like, I need to, she's a good person. I need to do this. My biggest problem with the ending is the fact that they left her being as like, I understand for the tone of the movie going forward, because if she would have narked, it wouldn't have changed the outcome. She probably would have been off.
They put herself in even more danger.
Yeah. No, but they probably wouldn't have. No one would have listened to her because either the FBI, because they even went, her and her friend or colleague Reggie, they went to Victor Garber, her boss, and tell her, hey, what's going on? Like we don't trust this, whatever. No, we're left in the dark. And he said, you can make your complaints all you want, but it doesn't make a difference. I answer to way higher up, and this is where these orders are coming from.
Yeah.
So even if she spoke out, it wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
She would have gone to the press. She would have been discredited. All that stuff.
You described the scene and there where they're getting to the business ops portion of the trade here going on, and that is the bank where they laundered the money. Yes. And so they have a numbers guy going, hey, this is really smart. This is how they do it. They explain it. It takes a sense or two, and you're like, fuck yeah, I understand it. I don't need
it's a real thing too.
Yeah, and so she basically with her friend there, the lawyer guy, they want something what they feel is prosecutable now.
Yeah.
Where Josh, is basically saying, hey, don't go in there. And then he says, you know what? It can't be prosecuted based on what you're going on here. It's not going to lead to anything. And then you're going to So Braun's character is completely right, but it's very reasonable on her part to go, wait a minute. Yeah. I want something. I made my 10% on this trade. I want to cash out, maximize, and make sure I got my money now. Whereas Braun's like, no, you don't want to do that. You want to wait till it doubles, basically that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, we don't want those small fish. We want the
exactly. And he explains to her, this is how we do it, and all that. And it's so beautifully explained to you that what, I'm hired as an ops guy here to figure out how to make this stuff happen because the FBI can't do it, the CIA can't do it. And oh, by the way, because your FBI and CIA can't operate there, we need to have you on a team. Thank you for volunteering, because they can't make her do it. And her boss tells her that. There's no manipulation here. There's no, hey, this will be great for your career speech. No, that's stupid ass shit. It's like, hey, I can't make you volunteer for it and all that, but this is how it works. And she's like, yeah, I want to know what happened to the people, or I want to be involved with seeing where this goes with the people that I just saw murdered and the people involved in it. Okay.
Yeah, so they want to catch the bad guy, the guy who killed, her teammates,
Yep.
And she's fed that lie, and it's kind of like, but it really has nothing to do with that because they weren't even involved with that. But in general, you want to point out, you mentioned about how she's divorced, and then she lives alone and stuff, It's a
high stress job.
Yeah, high stress. So Josh Brolin in the interview with her is like, "Are you married? Divorced? Like, any kids? No, you're good." Because they don't want baggage. If they need to get rid of her, they can get rid of her. There won't be questions asked.
Or really, she's not going to have anything that's going to hold her back should she get involved.
Sure. Yep. That too. You can't. Yeah, it's basically like joining a gang in a sense. We don't need
to vet her.
We don't want you to be compromised, because if you have this, you can be compromised if they get to your family, whatever. We want someone who basically has no contact outside. We become like your unit, your family. You shouldn't have any other, valid vulnerabilities. So, and she is a perfect patsy. That's why they want her, because she is not married, she doesn't have kids, don't have to worry about her wavering stuff. So they played her as much as they could, and they knew at the end is like, she did talk. Who cares? They've probably done this multiple times.
As much as if it sounds evil, nefarious, it really did not come across that way to me. No. It really came across as a competent grouping, and just he's presenting his picture of what's going on, and she understands it. We get to hear that. We hear her bosses, and we get to experience hers, because that's what this movie is. It's you are her. You're being brought along to see all this, and so you see your outlook on how you think of these things all depends on which view you're given.
There's a lot of Americans who do not know what's going on the border. They turn a blind eye. They just go play their video games, their stuff. They don't care. As long as it doesn't affect them, they don't bother them. And this is basically a way of opening your eyes to, hey, this is what's going on. We have people right outside. They don't want to come in there. And the only way this is going to get done is we would go in there. Even though we're not, the laws are not supposed to be in there. But the only way to solve this problem is to take out people, not do the dirty work that nobody else wants to do, but knows it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And that's what these guys are. And Benicio del Toro is just a great asset, because the fact that he's not tied to the government whatsoever, he's just, hey, you're a hitman. You want to go take out these guys for us? Cool. And he knows he knows the score. If you get caught, we don't know you.
It's a perfect match.
Yes, exactly.
The other thing too is that you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's no happy talk. There's no talking about stuff. It's this is what we need to do to make this work. This is how it is, and there's no debating it. It's simply true, and they go do it.
Yep.
It's awesome. It's you don't have to make it complicated. You don't have to make it a big philosophical discussion on the merits of whether we should have open borders, closed borders, and that I don't consider it a political movie in that sense at all. As much as Taylor Sheridan might have put some stuff in some of his films and all that. I'm not gonna. I think this is fantastic writing from him. It's one of the reasons why I tried to give Yellowstone a shot. Like I told you, it's hard unless you get emotionally invested in some characters to really care about something. You and I love Tulsa King. Landman's been pretty good. He's the really hot thing right now. And again, this is his first writing credit. What a way to write and just have a fucking home run for your first time out.
Yeah,
Here, can you hear that, Taylor? Nice job.
I admit, when this movie came out, I kind of looked at it, I was like, at this point, I'm like, by watch, it looked like a Netflix movie. This movie had a budget of $30 million, walked away with $85 million.
Yeah, did well.
Did all right.
Best looking film of that year on my short list, at least. I'd have to go look back, but whenever I hear Sicario, I go, damn, that was good. It looked really good.
It was released in Cannes at the film festival in May, and then it was released in the United States in September.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, it's done really well. What are these? Denis Villeneuve was a director. I'm trying to remember what else he directed other than this.
So the thing that made me pay attention to this movie, in addition to the names in it, a couple years earlier, and you'll know more about what was going on with the X-Men and stuff than I would, but he directed that one. I think it was called Neighbors or something, that had Wolverine and somebody else in there. And what it is one of their kids gets kidnapped, and the police really, there's nothing they can do it, and they're convinced that it's this neighbor, and they like go to kidnap him and basically torture him or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just really fucking good, and I'm like, man, this movie looks good. It's intense. It's got just some great acting into it, and it was very much like this, kind of very subdued. It's a tremendous film. So when this came out, I went, okay, let me give it a shot, and then when I saw it, I was blown away.
So this guy did Prisoners with
That's the movie.
Hugh Jackman. Yep.
That's
and
it.
Jake Gyllenhaal, 2013. Then he went on to do Incendies and Prisoners, and found those. He did Enemy, which came out in 2014, and then it was a Canadian movie. And then they had, after this, he what else did he do? He did Arrival, 2016, Story of Your Life. Well, based on the short story of something else. They had Jeremy Renner and Amy Adams. And then he went on to doing some other movies too. But then he switched to science fiction films. He started doing Blade Runner.
Yep.
2009. What else did he do? He's in it, and he directed Dune, the new adaptation of Dune, 2016.
Dune feels a little thin to me, but it looks fantastic. Yeah. Part of that's because some of the younger actors in it, I think.
So I'm looking at it. He's going to be doing a historical drama about Cleopatra for Sony Pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay. I saw Kim Bo Young. I was like, oh, is that their buddy? No, that's a Sony person. From the kickboxer,
mm-hmm.
Bo Young. Yep. Bolo Young, yeah. So, anyways, like I said, this director though, Denis, is not on the second one. They went with a different director, and you can tell why it changed a little bit in the tone. I look forward to reviewing that with you as well. Okay. This is going to be this is going to be a trilogy. Then the third one's supposed to come out sometime this year, and I'm just glad because like Emily Blunt does not come back for the second one. I'd say that it's kind of like a standalone movie. Uh-huh. You really don't need to see the first one in order to watch the second one, but it's still good though. Josh Brolin's back, and so is the main cast and everything. As far as Josh Brolin, what's his name? Benicio del Toro and Jeffrey Donovan. So
okay, yeah.
Those three are in the second movie as well, and kind of like keeping them together is a tight knit group is really cool. Even Jeffrey Donovan didn't care to get much in the second movie, but his one-liners in the movie were pretty cool.
Jeffrey Donovan is look. These aren't the kind of actors that blow you away in terms of like they stole a scene, right? Yeah. But they're so solid when you realize everything they've done. You're like, hey, this is really good. It's not just some jabroni.
No. But like I said, it was a very good movie, and I do recommend it to anybody who's not watched this to check it out. And but if you are squeamish about guns and gore and people being murdered, off camera. Like the very first like Psycho,
you don't really see it.
The first 20 minutes of the movie is disturbing because you see the bodies are in bags, but they're in there and they're bloody and stuff, and just like
it's an accident how they got found.
We don't know how long they've been in there. And my thing is like I don't even want to see any gore and stuff, but I don't want to see any rotten stuff, skeleton. That stuff's disturbing, but it's not in this movie, so you guys are gonna look out with that.
She's dead, wrapped in plastic.
Yeah, well, 20 of them. Yes. And I was expecting more of that, like the guy who tortured him, who put him in the things. Like I was expecting to see that, like a kill room guy doing stuff, but we didn't get that. But overall, though, it's great to see the border check agent and just talking about what really goes on the border and stuff. Second one really gets to be more of that. Second one even has a shot of Trump's wall.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, 2018, man. So it's right into Trump's America right there on that time, first term.
Any other final thoughts?
Just to say, this was actually a good movie. Both movies are on Netflix, the first one and the second one. So if you have Netflix and you haven't checked this out, go do yourself a favor.
Phenomenal movie.
They're both 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Both good movies. As I said, the second one's a little bit lighthearted because it's a little different situation. But Emily Blunt's only in the first movie, and I honestly, her reaction kind of felt like I was watching like not Bad Lieutenant. There's another movie where the cop who kind of gets drawn in. Kurt Russell. Something blue.
Dark blue.
Dark blue. Kind of reminded me a little bit in this movie.
Okay.
The cops kind of getting like slowly corrupted and stuff. So.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, who are the bad guys? They're the bad guys. We're the good guys. So I was kind of getting that, and then I swear, Josh Brolin, like he just gets as he gets older, he just gets more ruggedly. You know,
this is the perfect role for him.
Yeah, gritty.
I'm serious.
Yeah. You know,
the older brother from Goonies to this.
I know, right? Riding a girl's bicycle to taking down bad guys.
Wow.
And Benicio del Toro, like I said, when I first saw this, I thought he was James Marsden with like his sunglasses, so it threw me off. And I'm like, wait, that's Benicio del Toro, because I didn't see like the eyes under his bags, you know.
Yeah, great film. Check it out. It's definitely awesome. Looking forward to reviewing the second one at some point, maybe Prisoners and some other stuff. And phenomenal movie. Really, really enjoyed it a lot. You will too. Here on the Extreme Movie Show. Good night now.
Later, guys, and stay extreme.